This is going to be another beginner Lightwave tutorial for the animation class at ASU. Of course, anybody can use these, but their current project right now is to make a spaceship, and I'm going to kind of follow along with that and make a model sort of along those lines, and so you guys can see what sort of tools I'm going to use to make that. So here's the model I'm going to be making. This is a cradle colony thing from Armored Core. I'm not going to make this exactly, but I'm just going to make something that's kind of along these lines with like the outlying wings and whatnot, because hopefully I'll use enough tools in this to kind of help along students in that class. It's not going to be super detailed because I don't want to make this tutorial ridiculously long. I don't know how long it's going to be, but hopefully it won't be too long. So this is going to be mostly modeling, and this is going to be the thing we're going to be trying to make as sort of a scene with these up in the atmosphere. Go ahead and close this so I can do it from scratch. Here's the first version of the model. Go ahead and make a new one. So this is mostly going to be modeling. I think I'm going to cover the knife tools. I want to cover some bevels and then some rotation and mirror stuff, but we'll just see how it goes. So let's see. I'm also going to kind of cover how to break down shapes like this. So let's look at this here. You kind of see it's like separate little platforms, and they're making up each one held up here. So I'm going to make the base platform first and pretty much reuse a shape that's pretty similar to that for all this. So we're not going to be making a whole lot. We're going to be copying and pasting most of it. So let's start off with a box. It doesn't really matter what size, because these things are going to be big, but since it's 3D, you know, we can just lie on everything since we're going to render it. We can make it really small and it just appears big on screen. And then, sorry, the box is not set to the default because I was messing with it. Okay, so if we drag out from the box, which I think is shift X, I never really use it, just click here. And draw a box out here by clicking and dragging. We'll get a sort of rectangular shape that's longer on one end like this. And I'm going to add a segment in here, and you can go to the in numeric box here and add segments through these little sliders. But you can also, if you're in a window, press up on the arrow key, or right, or left or down if you want to get rid of one. So I'm going to press up and create a slice right there, and then in this view I'm going to press right twice, create two slices here, and I'm up one more, put a slice across here. So that way you can break up your box while you're modeling it. You don't have to go and use a knife tool or anything. So now we have this box here, and they kind of have a slant to them. So I'm gonna move this middle section here, select it, and I'm just doing points because it's going to be easier. And to swap between points and polygons and edges, I'll probably cover this, but just press spacebar and it'll go between them, and it will save your selection. So if I select these edges, it won't matter in the point selection. Then click T for move and move them up here. That way we'll have a place for the edge to stop on. And select this bottom edge, and you can kind of see I'm working from the side view, so up here you'll be able to see what it's really doing. But you do want to get used to working with the side views rather than trying to select all four of them every time. You can just select one and it'll go through and get all of them. It's also kind of dangerous though if you're not used to it. You don't want to select too much stuff. So now we're getting sort of that edge shape on there. And here I'm going to go ahead and cut this model in half just so we can mess with it easier. So I'll use the shift K. Where's this K? No, K scale polygons. Shift K to bring out the knife tool. And I'm going to click right along the origin in this view, so it's going to cut all the way through it and drag through, and it'll cut the object in half like that. So now we've got an extra line going through the center, and I'm just going to select this whole side here, and I didn't get all of it, so I'm going to push shift right bracket, the little, which I guess is technically the little squiggly brace. You just shift right bracket, so it's going to be the squiggly brace, and delete that side. So it expands the selection when you do that, and that's a really useful tool. You're going to want to get used to these shortcuts if you do a lot of modeling. Delete it, and now we have sort of half of a shell. And when I'm done, I'm going to mirror this on the other side, so we only have to work with one side. We don't have to worry about what's going on. So I'll select here, press T for move, and press E for extend, and it will create another side. And extend is kind of like the extrude tool. You got to be careful with it though, because how many times you press it, it's going to be confusing. So I'm probably going to go ahead and use extrude, just so people don't get confused when I do that. But extrude is the same tool, except I don't like the way extrude does it, because it likes to flip the polygons you're messing with. I don't know why it does that, but it wants you to, before you extrude it, invert the side and then extrude it, and I have no idea why. But they pretty much work exactly the same way, except extrude will leave behind it will leave behind the polygon you're extruding from. So I think the one I'm talking about is Extender Plus. Yeah, it is. Okay. So I'm going to use Extender Plus, and you click it, and nothing seems to happen, but it is extending from that side. So I'm going to extend it, oops, and move this side back a little bit, so it kind of gives us a curve here. And I'm going to stretch it. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to extrude again and move it out this way. Here. So we have sort of an interesting platform base. Now I can just multiply or mirror this, so I didn't have to work with two sides. I'm just working with one side and mirroring it over. So go to multiply, mirror, and these are the different axes you're going to mirror on. So if you mirror Y, it's going to be in the same spot because it's straight on these axes here, and it's going to want to mirror across the Y. So I want to mirror across on the X side, so click mirror X, and you got this here, and it should automatically connect these polygons. We can check that by clicking on something anywhere, selecting anything, and then clicking right bracket. It'll select everything. But if you say had this off a little bit and then you mirrored it, it's not going to multiply them together. You can move them, but like if I come down here and try to select it, it's not going to get all of it. So you want to make sure this is straight on the center, or that you weld the points afterwards. So mirror. Now we have this little platform thing. And let's look at the shape again. Okay, yeah, I'm going to create a little platform to come off of this. So create another box. It's overhanging a little bit. Don't want it to be too thick. Go back here, and it's going to go back, so we're going to have these sort of wings coming off of it. And that should be good. I'm not going to slant it like it's doing. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do later. I'm going to build the wings straight and then rotate both wings at the same time this way to kind of get the wing shape, but you'll see that later. Won't take too long. Select these here. And normally when I select like that, I hold middle click, because if you hold left click and you select something, you try to select something again, you can't select anything. You're only going to be able to deselect. You'd have to hold shift, and I really don't like working with two hands on the mouse and keyboard like that. I don't know. I prefer to just use middle click. If you hold middle click, then I let go and I press middle click again, it's like holding shift to select something, which is much easier. I'm going to select here. Sorry for all the rambling, but this is for people who are completely new to Lightwave. And I want to teach people some different tricks. So I move that over so I kind of have this polygon over here to work with. And I'll like E extrude off of it. So when you do that again, you press E and then switch to move or rotate or whatever. But it's going to be extruding off it. So I'm going to use move down and give that a slant to come off of. And if you want to get all fancy with this, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to bevel this side to give it a little bit more detail. So let me click here and here and then loop select. So selection, select loop. That's not doing it. Okay, why is it not doing it? I still have not completely figured out loop select. What is it? Sometimes it does not select the way you would think it would. So sorry about that. I did not expect this to mess up. Worked perfectly the other time. Whatever, I'll just do it manually. So go down here and select that one. Anyways, I have all this edge selected. Now I can click multiply. Is it under multiply? Yeah, it should be. Where's edge bevel? Oh, they changed it to chamfer in this version of Lightwave. In y'all's version, it's probably called edge bevel if y'all don't have 11.6 or higher, or 11.5 or higher. In this one, it's going to be called chamfer. If I'm pronouncing it right, I'm probably not. When you do it, it'll do this here. So you select the chamfer tool, and then you left-click and drag in the window. And you can see it's adding edges to it that are beveled inwards. And it just kind of gives things a nicer look. You know, it makes everything not look like it's just a box. You know, you kind of got a little edged look to it. So I'll leave it like that. I think I'll do that here too. Kind of make it more interesting shape. And this is going to be really far away in this scene, so you don't really have to worry about these looking too nice. But just so you guys can know the tools to use them later. Alright, and I'll go ahead and give this thing a little wing coming off of it by just selecting that and moving it backwards in this view up here. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to select this thing here, select it, right bracket, select all of it, Ctrl C and Ctrl V to copy and then paste it, and then press T again to move it. I'm going to move it out this way. And I'm going to select the bottom of this here. So we got this view here. Select it and move it up. And this is going to give us a little bit of an edge to connect these with. So I can, now that that's lined up, I can select here, press E, and then T, and move it over this way. Sorry about that, the audio to my microphone cut out. But as I was saying here, we're moving this side out, and it's they're sort of connected together right here. But we didn't weld them or anything, and the polygons aren't connected too well. But that's fine, because this isn't going to be for a game model or anything. This is just going to be, I mean, you know, if you look at it here, it looks fine. So now that we have this little platform here, I'm just going to copy this constantly. Copy, paste, so Ctrl Z, Ctrl V, move it out again, and connect it right there. And then select this one and that one, right bracket, Control copy, paste, move it out so we have a pretty decent amount of these, because they're going to be the wings on the ship platform thing, whatever it's going to be. Okay, and now I'm going to copy this one here, the first piece that we did that has the little angle that's coming off of it, select it all, and right bracket, copy, paste, and move it up. I'm going to go ahead and move it all the way to the end, because the last one's going to have it. This is going to be that second stack of wings that this thing has here. But I'm actually going to extend them all the way out. Also, the way I'm deselecting things so fast is I'm pressing the left, I guess it's forward slash, backslash, I don't know, whichever one's underneath the question mark next to shift. That one deselects everything. You can also click anywhere in the gray here, as they claim, but sometimes does not work. I don't know what's up. I don't know how that's supposed to work. To move it back here, I'm going to be attaching it on the very edge of the wing, so I'm going to look in the right view here and stick it there on the edge piece that's going back like that. So we have separate edges, and copy, paste, move it. And they should all line up, so we can just copy, paste, move it back, and we could select, you know, 2 of them at a time and copy them, move them over, save a little bit of time. Okay, and then I'll do the next row, copy, paste, move it up and back. So now I got these 2. I'm going to add one more just because that looks kind of weird. Okay, so now we got that interesting looking wing shape coming off it. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I just saw the timer has already passed like 12 or 13 minutes. So I'll go ahead and save this. Armored Core Cradle. Okay, I'm gonna copy these wings over, but before I do that, I'm going to make a little middle connection section here. That had a weird rhyme to it. All right, so move this. I'll get this here and click E and T. So extrude it up, move it out, and then I'm gonna grab this piece here, move it back. This is creating sort of like a bus section in the middle of it that will connect it so we can have like a multi-layer of these things. Like I said, I'm making one that's kind of different from the one from Armored Core just to save time, and I think this one looks cooler. Their shape is kind of weird. Alright, so now loop select should work because this is a loop around here, so I'm going to select loop. Okay, so now I got that whole loop selected. I'm going to do shift+K for the knife tool again and cut it across here. And this will be a good time to go ahead and show the alternative to knife. If you wanted to, instead of using knife tool, you can select a loop like this, select loop, and do multiply bandsaw. There's normal bandsaw, but I use bandsaw pro because it gives you a bit more controls. And see how it cut in the middle there whenever I clicked it. If you click in, it'll open up the numeric options, and you can move around the value for this cut. In this case, I'm not actually going to use this cut, but I'm going to leave it here just so you can kind of see. If you want to get more rings to mess with, you can use Bandsaw Pro pretty easily. And if it doesn't divide for whatever reason, that means Enable Divide's off, and all you have to do is click in and click Enable Divide right there for it to actually cut. If it's not cutting for whatever reason, that must be off. Okay, so let me select this platform. Oh, I forgot to connect it to that. Oh, that's fine. I'll go ahead and extend these back, so it'll be a little interesting. These little pieces right here. E, extend back. E, extend back again. And this doesn't really have any purpose. I'm just adding it for sake of the model. And I'm using E every time to extend that. So you can get some interesting shapes using that tool. And go ahead and bring this back. I don't know what purpose this has, but it looks cool. Okay. So now that I have that line, I can make 2 rows of these wings. But first, I'm going to go ahead and mirror them. And to select all the wings, I'm going to click here, right-click, lasso them all, and then right bracket to make sure I got everything. And do multiply mirror X. So now you see we got the wings over here on each side, and now I'm going to shift click the wings again. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and lasso select it. Hold shift and then lasso select and right bracket. So now we have all the wings selected, and I want to give them kind of a swept back kind of look like these have. And a really easy way to do that is to use a little trick here. If you click symmetry on, which I don't know if you guys have messed with symmetry yet, but symmetry, shift Y, or wherever it is down here, you can move things opposite along the axis, as opposed to with it off. You know, if I move right, I'm going to be moving the whole array like this, but if I press symmetry on, it'll move them separately. But if you use rotate with symmetry, and I have on selection, it's going to rotate like that. So it's sort of going to, I don't know, push? Or it's an interesting way to do rotation, because these are going to rotate exactly opposite of each other. So I'll do that and move this back. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and select these points. Just move them outwards a little bit so that they're in line here. Uh-oh, they're clipping through the thing. I didn't think about that. The bus wasn't that tall last time. I'll go ahead and lower the bus then. Select all of it, move it down underneath the wings. And then since I got it's gonna here it's going to go below these edges here, so it's going to look kind of weird. It's going to sink into it. So I can shift right bracket, select the edges, so I selected the whole thing, and I can move that whole shape down like that. That looks a bit better. Still clipping, but no one's going to see that from the underside. Okay. Those wings look crooked to me. What is crooked about the wings? I mean, it's just my imagination. It looks like they're lining up. Oh well. Go ahead and select all the wings. And right bracket, so we have everything. Copy and paste with Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and T to move them back. Here. And now that we still have symmetry on, we can sort of expand these out. So they go wider. And I'm going to move them up onto this level up here. So back like that. Now, since symmetry's still on, symmetry will work with selection too. So you can see I select here, it selects the opposite side. Then we click E for extend and move it out. Sort of match along that way. That'll work. That'll look good. I'm going to go ahead and go to the other one because I'm running out of time that I wanted to allot for this anyways. I don't want the tutorial to be too long, otherwise no one's going to watch it. Extend that down and do the same thing here. Without those sides. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give this a surface, so I'm going to select the whole thing. Actually, you don't need to, well, maybe you do need to select it. I don't know, if I press Q, what's going to happen if I have nothing selected? If I just call it cradle? Yeah, it'll select everything. So it works off the same purpose. If you have nothing selected, everything is selected. So you press Q, and that's going to give a surface to this, and I'll name it cradle, click OK. And when you go to Surface Editor, you can select your cradle here, or whatever you name this thing, and change the color. But I'm going to save that to change inside layout. Just go ahead and save it. And this ship is pretty simple. I mean, there's nothing interesting really about it. But if we get it in a cool scene, this will actually look pretty neat. I'm going to go ahead and send it to layout. And move it up. Let's look at the camera view. And if your camera is too slow or too fast to move around, you can change the size of the scene by right and left bracket. So move it around. And the smaller the icons are, the bigger the scene is technically. Nothing's actually changing though. This is still the exact same size it was. It's still only 17 meters in the air, and that's not changing. It just looks like it's further up because you're changing the size of the camera and the objects around in the scene. I want to make it super big, so I have a lot of room to move around. And we'll look at that VPR. Oh, come on, how hard is this to click? Alright. So we got the basic shape. And in this picture that I rendered before this, the way I did this here is I made the Earth surface down here, and then made the sky and atmosphere in here, which is really easy to do in Lightwave. They actually have presets for most of that. And I'm going to use preset textures and just change it a little bit. I'll go ahead and save the scene. Because once again, I don't want to take too much time. So I'll click here. Go to modeler, actually. I'm going to make a second layer down here. And create box. Make a huge plane. And this will be the Earth surface. I'm actually going to make this rotate a little bit, kind of how the Earth does, you know, horizon line and all that, just to make it seem bigger. So I'm going to give it some more polygons. And we can do that really easily by selecting here. And this is this side here. If I go to modify, make sure symmetry's off, although this is going to be weird. Modify bend, and I select here, I can bend it and give it a curve like that. So just a real small curve, doesn't have to be too much. If you wanted to exaggerate it, you could, like this. I'm going to go ahead and do that, just see what it looks like. Rotate it in this view and move it up. So now when we go to layout, where is the Earth? Oh, it's a different layer. So it's not going to show up in there. Send object to layout. It's going to send a second one of these in here with second layer. Let's see perspective wise. It's probably so big. Yeah, it's so big I couldn't see it. So I'll move it down. So now I'll just go ahead and delete this with the minus keys, because I didn't realize it was doing that. Okay. And I'll give it a surface name on the Earth here. So go ahead and select everything, and Q, I already got one called Earth somewhere, so I'll name it that. So click Q, name it Earth. And you got this. And these colors don't matter because we're going to add textures on top of them later. So there we go. Go to camera view. And the camera is actually below the surface of the Earth. That's why you can't see it. So if we raise it up there, now it's above it. And if we go to VPR, you can see what's going on. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and give the Earth surface a texture to it. Go to Surface Editor, Earth, and press F8 for the defaults to pop up. And I'm going to give it... These are just good base ones to work off. You can always change them, but I'm going to go to Nature, Dry Ground. It looks pretty good. Right now it just looks like a fake surface or flat surface, but if you go to VPR you can see the normals and bump maps on it. And that'll be good enough. So now to give it an atmosphere, you go to Windows, Volumetrics and Fog, or Background Options. They're all under the same Effects tab. I'm going to go to Volumetrics, and now you know what? Before I add fog, actually, I'm going to go ahead and add the backdrop. You can add a gradient backdrop like this, just a simple gradient one, or if you want to get more complex, you can go into the image worlds and sky tracers. I would encourage you to mess around with these. Sky tracer is going to include clouds and has a bunch of different options you can do to change it around. You can edit the clouds to different kinds of clouds and whatnot, but it takes up a lot of memory, so I'm going to go ahead and just use oh yeah, here's another one, image world. You can load in any image you want, so let's just put, I don't know, let's do like a space thing so you can kind of see it goes in the background. And it's really hard to get these to look decent. Turn that off again. I'm going to go ahead and just do gradient. And let's make the sky color, make it really dark and sad for no apparent reason. Let's go here, and I'm going to make the saturation down so it's more gray. And that's the zenith color, like the top atmospheric part. The sky color is where it gets close to the ground. I normally make that close to the background, or the you know, the ground, like where it goes to the Earth. You can click here, and y'all may not have pick from screen, which would be sad, but if y'all don't have that, you just kind of guess on the color. Go to ground. It depends on which version of Lightwave you have. The ground color is that little things that are beneath the surface, and since the color, the world here is rounded, you will see the edge a little bit, so you can go ahead and select that and set it to whatever. Okay, that should look good. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some fog. In this case, we set it to linear, and the fog's going to cover up things that are far away. And in this case, I'm going to use it to make it look like the ship is covered up by part of the atmosphere, like that. So here we'll change the distance out. It's really good for spaceships. If you keep increasing the distance, you'll see you can get the effect there. And I'm going to set it on non-linear. These are just different. You can see the spline here, the graph, so you can see like the fog's the same all the way, but realistically it'd be more like this, the way you're looking at it. If you want really realistic, you can set it to realistic, but I normally don't actually do that because this looks better to me. So I set it there, and I want to set the fog color to the same, or really close to the same as the sky. So the fog will look like the atmosphere. Alright, let's see here. I'll pick from the screen. Pick that back there. See, it's kind of covered by fog and it colors it. So we'll set it. Come on, where is it? Pick from screen. Set it as there. So it's going to look like it's up in the atmosphere a little bit. Kind of obscured by the clouds and whatnot that's going on. Nothing I don't like about it though is it does appear on the ground, so it's going to cover up the ground a little bit and look kind of bad. It's going to fight with the zenith color over here. There's different ways you can do fog. I just encourage you to mess around with it, but it's kind of a quick way to get something cool like that. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and set it to that so I don't have to fight with the color there. So it's coming out of a red atmosphere, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. I don't know, maybe on a red planet, badass atmosphere sky thing. That was kind of cool. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to lower the saturation. Oh, that's cool. It's like it's on Mars or something. Okay, so for the ship, I'm going to give it a easy texture here. I'm just going to go to the color, and I do want to cover these a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put an image on it. In this case, I'm going to do... This doesn't matter. This image is not going to be the actual texture that's on it, but I'm going to put this background image that I have. It's a hex color. Look at it in perspective so we can kind of see better. If you go out of VPR, it's easier to select things. So I have this selected. I'll click the crosshair icon to snap to it and zoom in so we can kind of see this texture. It's really small here. Just load this one. I'm going to increase it to 4x4, and this is how many times it's going to tile on the thing. The bigger the number, the less times it's going to tile. So you can kind of see that here. And actually, so it doesn't do this stretching, I'm going to set it to cubic map. So it's mapping it from all sides. And what you can do here, what was that? Oh, press B, okay. Surface editor, color. I'm going to lower the opacity of this layer, so it's going to be viewable in VPR. So I'm not just straight taking the texture from that. I'm sort of overlaying it on there to break up the monotony of this solid color. And now I'm going to add another layer, procedural, and put this turbulence effect under that, so you can have the different layers everywhere and make that whatever color you want your ship to be. So make it a little darker. You make it green or whatever you want. You can even make it look like there's dirt on the ship if you want to do that. So sort of covering it. I'm just going to make it sort of a darker color here. Sort of break up. And it's going to look bad up close, but from far away, you know, it looks fine. It just makes it look like there's random detail on the ship. For a professional one, I wouldn't do this, but like this is just a beginner tutorial thing. So here we got that. This sort of looks cool, and I'm just going to lay out the scene with more of these ships. I'm going to do it from the camera view, actually, because that'll be easier to look at. So in here, it's Ctrl C to clone, and you create a clone right where it's standing. So we move the clone back, move it up, sort of keep it in the composition here. Clone it again, and I'm going to fill up this space over here with one that's even higher and much farther back. So now if we look at this in VPR, that one should be totally covered. Oh, no it's not, because the fog color is not the exact same as the top. Now if we went over here and changed the fogs to, you know, fog color and made it the same as the screen right there, it'll be almost invisible like that. But you get these errors down here. It actually looks pretty cool. Let me see, I'm going to change the fog distances. You can mess around with the settings here. And I think that's good for the spaceship thing. I covered a couple of the tools. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I mean, ask anything about here. And if you guys want a specific video, feel free to let me know. I would render this image, but it's going to completely kill the recording, so I'm not going to do that. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or any projects you want me to do, feel free to ask, and hopefully I can cover some more tools. Goodbye.